So welcome to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio. And today is Friday. The week has gone by fast. Today is Friday, and it's January the 22nd, 2021. And our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. While we're waiting on Michael to dial in, I just want to say thank you for everybody for holding Ryan and Gabby and Aria in the space of love. They are now out of quarantine. They are over the COVID, and everything is awesome. So hopefully we will have baby again a couple days next week as well. And we've been FaceTiming about every other day with them, and she has changed so much. The last time that we had her here was on January the 4th, and so it's been a long time. We have FaceTimed, like I said, about every other day, but it's still not quite the same. But anyway, thank you all for holding the space, and they got through that just fine. And so Michael should be dialing in any moment. I'll direct you to go to our website, which is www.whyagain.org, WHYAGAIN.org. And there's just lots and lots of information out there. Invite you to put the tools to work. And we are just a few days away. Next Wednesday, we start the second online intensive. And it's exciting. I think the majority of the first 25 people that were in the first one are going to join us as a support group. And we have 17 new people. So this is phenomenal. And it's working out very well. It's a lot of self-study for the second group. So there's a lot. They've got to be disciplined and committed and stay on target so that it doesn't get ahead of them and they get into overwhelm. But it looks like we're going to have a really good group, and it's everywhere from Hawaii to Thailand and a couple in Canada. And so we're covering the globe on this one. So, Michael, are you with us yet? Hi, welcome.
Am I with us?
Yeah.
I am with us.
Good.
It wouldn't be enough.
Take it over.
If I weren't here. So now there is, all of us. Hey. And to tap into or to add to your conversation about Ari Reign and how different she looks, aside from just being amazing and awesome and so cute in both cases, the big lesson related to this work from recognizing that and conned into believing we live in this solid physical world and everything is physical, and beyond the physical there's nothing, no control, there's no, it's just physical. If you can't get it with your senses, you can't get it. But, we look at that picture this morning, it's a year ago, and it's really clear, especially if you look back 28 months ago. This so-called body is nothing but a piece of plastic. Now, it reaches what we call an adult age, and we forget that it's plastic. But really anchor that in your mind. If you're doing your work, especially if you live in a world of fear about disease and your body degrading, that is a total and complete anomaly and is not part of the original design of our so-called bodies. Our bodies are energy systems. They're plastic. They follow the laws of energy. And as an integrated energy field, within this little one, Ari Reign had a single cell at conception. There was a vision, there was a program, there are several ways you could say it. There was literally a blueprint for what she would be in 9 months, the day she came out of the womb, for what she would be in 18 months or 16 months, the time we're talking about Jeanie looking at that picture, and here she is at 28 months. The blueprint was in there. Now that blueprint is going to unfold just as exactly as if you handed your contractor, and of course you've got a good contractor, a blueprint for a house you want to build. The house is going to look like the blueprint. It's not going to look like the house 6 blocks away. It's not going to look like, and if you've got instructions for what kind of materials to use and such, if you instruct the contractor to use the shoddiest, cheapest materials possible, then that's going to unfold according to that blueprint. If you instruct your body to live in hate and fear and rage and guilt and grief and condemnation and self-condemnation and gossip and slander and vengeance, you are giving instructions to the master builder within you to destroy you. Get it? We do this to ourselves. Now, there is a factor that we inherit a blueprint that is continuously being adjusted generation upon generation. You were handed the most precious thing that you could ever have been handed at your conception. Now that you're conscious of it, what you do with it is up to you. Now, you live in a culture that says, oh, go pollute it every way you can, drink whatever you want, eat all the garbage of the culture, hate, fear, get politically active and kill people. Oh, go to war, the insanity. And most people have no recognition of that line. It's one of the last lines in the worksheet. I get the original of everything I engage in. They get a carbon copy. And if I put an energy into my structure that is an energy off the mark for my structure will deteriorate. If I do enough deterioration, I will die. Now, the word for putting a deteriorating energy, a disintegrative energy, into the human system in the Aramaic language 2,000 years ago was the word sin. It's an archery term. All it means is off the mark. When they said the wages of sin is death, that was not some kind of theological threat. Oh, Michael, you mean my great, great, old, wonderful, sweet great-grandmother sinned? Is she dead? Yes. But she was so pure and so sweet. Well, I believe you're probably right. She probably was. But what do you suppose her power person told her about herself? Magda gave us a really powerful example when she read a few weeks ago the result of a piece of work that she did in the last Codependence Intensive when she got in touch with her grandfather, and her grandfather told her of his pain and his trauma and his hate and his abuse and what he did to his children. What do you suppose if that one of those girls was your great-great-grandmother? What do you suppose her sin would have been? Well, would it have been her sin? If she held on to the energy, if she allowed it to promulgate in her structure, yes, it would be hers. Now, if she had no awareness of that, and it's sad, 2,000 years this knowledge has been known. 2,000 years ago, a man named Yeshua put it out. Go tell me where you'll find a church that will tell you this today, that supposedly is teaching his teaching, and that you don't get forgiven for your sins. That's an anomaly. That's a silly thing to even talk about, to think that God's going to forgive you for your sins. That's a silly Greek idea, sin or forgiveness being thought of as letting somebody off the hook. Oh, yes, God will forgive me. No, God's never going to forgive you for anything. That's a total lie and a fraud and a fallacy and a fantasy, and it's just plain silly. But if you give the Creator in you permission to remove those energetic patterns, as Magda did, and Jeanie, maybe you could put that link in the notes so anybody who wasn't on the show could listen to it. It's fabulous. It's just such a profound piece of work. But if you gave the Creator in you permission to remove that deep rage and that deep pain, then your plastic, your so-called body, would not move in the direction of that disintegrated state. If your great-grandmother, who was so sweet and wonderful, had known what was in her genes from her grandfather, who had such pain and trauma and passed on the message of what a piece of garbage she was, although she lived out of sweetness apparently in the outer world, was just the most wonderful creature that ever existed. But if nobody ever taught her the truth about the man Yeshua was teaching, and that if she could go inside and remove those energetic patterns by which her physiology was unfolding, she would be alive today. Oh, but that was 200 years ago. I don't care if it was 2,000 years ago. She would be alive today. Oh, come on, Michael. Now everybody's dying. Yeah, that's right. Find me somebody who could explain logically, rationally, and knows what I just explained in the last 5 minutes. Find me a scientist. Find me a physicist. Find me a theologian. Find me a preacher that can say what I just said, that can explain it to you and make sense of it and have you understand it. And then find me somebody who can tell you how to remove it. Guess what? You're not going to find it in this world. At least I haven't found it anywhere. I've spent decades looking in every corner of the earth, in every teaching I could find. And then I found this genius mind, Yeshua, from 2,000 years ago, and he told us exactly how to do it. And you know what happened? When he told them what they had to do, half of his audience, half of his disciples said, too hard a saying, and they turned and walked away and never came back. Now, I don't know this historically, but I suspect they're the ones who created this preaching about how Jesus saves and all you have to do is say his name. And then you're going to be fixed. Well, excuse me. Take a look at the prisons and see how many people have been calling on that name all their lives from their very earliest churches and have been terrified by those who are teaching his words. Tell me, show me how well their lives are going. And guess what? Belief is not what it's about. It's be living these teachings. And when he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, if you knew what that meant in Aramaic, you wouldn't say, see, you just say his name. You'd understand that a man and his teaching were one. And when he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, he said, here it is. I have given you the words of life. Here it is. A man and his teaching were one. My teaching, here it is. I've handed it to you. Now you have to do it. And what did half of the world say? Too hard a saying. Well, actually, probably 99.99999% of the world said too hard a saying, because I don't want to do that work. I don't want to face that trauma and pain, that horrid thing to my grandfather, the rage that he went through, the suffering, the terror, and not being able to feed his family and not knowing if the crops were going to. I don't want to have to deal with that. But you say that's within me today, unfolding in my heart as Magda discovered and shared with us in that reading of her letter from him. The man calls on us to be ready to do the work of healing. He calls on us to learn the skill of understanding and decoding everything written right down to the depth of our genes, learning how to remove it, access it, decode it, and throw it out. And that act is what was called forgiveness. Nothing whatsoever to do what this whole culture has taught everybody, virtually everywhere in the world, that if you're in pain, all you have to do is find the culprit. It's somebody outside of you, and then you just be forgiving. You just let them off the hook. Folks, it's a lie. It's just a simple, plain fraud. I realize, being the grandfather to this child, that one of my jobs be the space of active love and do my work so that I am able to attune only to her true created essence rather than anything that happens to come out of her genes or her genetics in the way of behavior or attitude or action, rather than joining with her in that, rather to stay connected in my being, to be able to recognize her being and to hold the space for her. In the ancient teachings, that was called touching the hem of his garment. Do you wear the garment of active present love? Do you live as active present love? And who you look at, you're willing to be the garment, you're willing to be the space of love that they can reach out to and get support for their healing process? And the more traumatized and the more in pain one is, the more deeply they need someone who's willing to reach that garment out to them. You'll remember, if you read that passage, and in the total misinterpretation of Yeshua's teachings, which will kill you if you don't understand them properly. People talk about that woman who had the issue of blood, and look at Yeshua healed her. No, he didn't. It's just a lie. Go back in his words. When they wanted to put it on him, what did he say? No, he said your faith. It was your awareness of who you are and your ability and willingness to do your work. That's my job as a grandfather, to support that little one in understanding and knowing the truth about herself, and knowing that every fear and every rage and every sadness and every grief that's gone on in her generations, and there have been plenty of them, empowering her, supporting her, providing the hem of my garment to lift her out of all of that, so that rather than being flooded by that, rather than being overwhelmed by that, she always remembers who she is. And I'd offer that's our job description as humans, to be that space for every mind, heart, and being on the planet, especially the most traumatized ones. You know, you look at some of the political actors that have been going down the last few weeks, trauma in those bodies, quote unquote bodies, is so profoundly deep and painful. Well, Michael, I saw where you posted something critical about one of those people. Yeah, lots of it. But you'll notice I also post the willingness to be the space of love and support for healing. Doesn't mean you don't hold people who are off the mark accountable. Doesn't mean you just let them run all over you or run all over the culture, all over anyone else. It means we understand how this energy field works. Yes, it may take building a building with a set of bars and locking somebody away in that building if they're not safe, if they're not supportive of human life, if they do not bring aliveness and life to the community, if they are destructive to it, yes, it may take locking them away, but not out of vengeance, not out of punishment. It's time for punishment to end. Every prison should be a place of deep, deep spiritual therapy and healing. We did it. We did it in the prison system. We cut recidivism by over 90% by teaching this in the prisons in the state of Georgia, because anybody who knows will never live there, will never live in that stuff. Once they know, once they're handed the tools. But they have to be tools that are logical and actually work, rather than a story that somebody made up that's a fantasy. You know, and we start with the principle offered by Einstein. Einstein says, if you think you're separate or separated from the rest of humanity, you're living in an optical delusion. The truth is there is one of us. We are cells in one structure, and some of these cells are renegade and need healing and need accountability. Einstein further said, on such things as matter, we've been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy, energy whose vibrations have been so lowered as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. Matter, material world does not exist. What appears to be a material world is nothing but a perceptual construct in a mind. There is no material world. Max Planck is receiving the Nobel Prize in Physics. This is over 100 years ago, and we still haven't caught up. So here's Max Planck, part of his speech. He says, as a man who spent his entire life studying matter, I can tell you this much. There is no matter as such. Our entire world is made of succeedingly smaller patterns of vibratory fields nested one within another within another. Are there diseases going on within your body or your mind or your finances or your relationships or your world? Then, Creator, access what it is with which you are creating your disease. Recognize there's an error in the blueprint. Learn the skill of removing those errors from the blueprint, accessing deeper and deeper and deeper layers and levels. You know, if you listen to that show that Magda called into a couple of weeks ago, she's been doing this work, if I remember now, for about 12 years. And it was in her, I don't know, 8th or 9th intensive that she got this insight and developed the skill and the ability to be able to decode what her grandfather held, which was such tremendous, tremendous rage and pain. And she was able to soften her own heart into that and process the energy, forgive the energy in her, which means her heart starts to move in a whole different direction. Do you have a disease going on? Do you want it to go in a different direction? Guess what? You have to go in a different direction. There's no miraculous something out there that's going to fix you. Yes, the world says, oh, the progression of this disease is A, B, C, D, E, dead. And that's the progression every time we see it, unless we see somebody who has the tools. And then it's A, B, C, B, C, B, A, D, A. Healing crisis. Now we've got healing happening. And now we've got literal, physical, eternal life as a possibility, because there's no longer any disintegrative energy in the plastic substance that would cause it to fall apart to the point where it would die. The wages of sin is death was not a theological threat. It was simply telling us how this energy system works. And everything you put out, everything you have ever put out, everything that has ever been put out by anybody in your bloodline, you got the original of it right there in your genes, right there in your structure. It's now part of the blueprint. Is something unfolding in the expression of the blueprint that you don't like? And stop pointing the finger at what's unfolding. That would be like the person who drew the blueprint for the house, and the blueprint got mixed up with somebody else's blueprint, and the builder's building for the wrong blueprint. And the person who designed the house standing there shaking their fist at the house saying, "You've got to change, house. You've got to change. This doesn't work." Instead of going to the contractor and say, "Oh, hey, buddy, you're going by the wrong blueprint. I don't know how you got those mixed up, and throw that one away. Here's the real blueprint. Here's what we really want to build by. This is what we want to build the house according to." And you change the energy that originates the creative process that you're unfolding. You become conscious of it. You remove what never belonged. And the removal, as I said, it's never going to be about, oh, God's going to forgive me. Let me off the hook for this. No. When I give permission to the Creator in me to remove that energy, then the Creator will remove that energy. It's up to me. And so it's not even relative to the conversation of I'm going to be forgiven by. That's another whole false rabbit trail that leads people to death. Oh, you see, I've been forgiven. Well, yeah, when the stress is up and the chips are down, I still go into rage just like my grandfather did, but I've been forgiven. That's all bull. That's bunk. That's baloney. Guess what? The Creator never judged you, so the Creator's never going to need to forgive you. That whole forgiveness thing is a total fraud. Forgiveness. Developing the skill and the ability to reach into the deepest parts of your unconscious, right down into the deepest levels of your genes, learning to access, decode, and remove those energetic patterns so that they're no longer in your blueprint, is what forgiveness is about. So once you understand forgiveness, you'll never even consider forgiving anyone else or yourself ever again, because forgiveness has got nothing to do with that. You may, should someone do something that's inappropriate, choose to let them off the hook. But if you do that, please call it what it is. It's pardoning. It's not forgiveness. And once you've pardoned someone for their inappropriate behavior, then you take responsibility for the fact that that inappropriate behavior was a trigger for your pain or your trauma or your hate or your fear or your grief or your sadness or your vengeance. And you take hold of that energy and you remove it from your structure. That's the process of forgiveness. And that's what we're here to support. That's what we're here to invite everybody into, is the action of removing what never belongs and living out of the truth of who we are. And all you have to do to determine who you are, hold the newborn child. Once you hold that newborn, you'll know exactly who you are. And then your work, should you choose to do it, and this tape will just self-disintegrate in 5 seconds, is to remove anything unlike your original nature that has ever been brought into the field of your family system or your cultural system or the world. That's what we're here to support. That's what we're here to learn on the deepest level.
We had a hand.
That's what we're here to teach. And I hear a sweet voice calling to me. Let's say hello to the hand.
All right. Area code 520. I think this might be Audrey.
Yes. Am I on?
Hey, welcome, young lady. Good to hear your voice. You are unmuted. You're loud and clear. Welcome.
Thank you. Question. I am in the process of doing what I call my inner work and dismantling what doesn't belong in my energy field. And
I'm with you on that.
I process predominantly from the right brain. Okay, I see in pictures it's right brain that's predominant, and
Good.
with the reality worksheets, I find that doing it from the right brain, I'm having a challenge doing it through the left, very logical. But my pattern is pretty much developed at my age of a senior. But I find that processing with the tapping works well for me, and it works well for me to do the reality worksheet, but I have to, quote, work at it. But
well, it's a process. It's different. You know, for most people, it's like, for instance, you know, you've shared you're a senior. Probably in the first 60-plus years of your life, you never heard such a thing as what we're talking about. So it's been introduced, and you're going to, some of your work is going to be changing some of those patterns in your brain and in your physiology. And at first, it's going to seem uncomfortable. And, you know, one of the examples I often use is I'll ask somebody, you know, if we were in a live workshop, I would ask a person from the audience to come up to the front and say, are you left-handed or right-handed? Say, oh, I'm right-handed. So, okay, would you write your name and address on the board with your left hand? And then watch. They hold their breath. It's awkward. It looks silly. The writing's terrible. You say, well, this is too hard. And it's like, no, it's just something new, something different. And when you start to change the old BS, the old belief systems, and you acquire new tools, it oftentimes feels just as standing at the chalkboard, writing with your non-dominant hand. Part of the process of learning and unlearning the old.
Okay, so as I get into these reality worksheets, I just say to myself, do it anyway, and just get in, and as I do it, it will become more comfortable. Is that what I hear the message?
Well, it'll not only become more comfortable, but it will become easier, and as you train your minds to do it, you'll be able to stay deeply in that right brain place, that intuitive place, and just gently breathe into it and process those things out so fast that you'll hardly notice your mind is involved in the process. Yep, the steps will still be followed. And I'm going to look at what's the goal that's driving this perception. I'm going to cancel this goal. I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to invite that presence of love to move deeply in me to remove this. And it will become easier and easier until it just becomes second nature, or maybe even first nature.
Thank you, and I'm willing to do the work. I'm vested into it, and thank you very much, and blessings to both of you.
All right, young lady. I definitely look forward to playing with you in the intensive. I'm excited you're going to be there. I know you're going to challenge me. I'm going to get to do some worksheets around you, I suspect, but that'll be fun. I join you in healing.
Thank you very much. Blessings.
All right. Lots of love. Blessings. Bye-bye.
And we have another hand.
All right. Let's say
Area
hello.
code 480. You're on the air. Who do we have?
It's Scott.
Hey, young man. Welcome.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, Jeanie.
Hi there.
Yeah, Audrey and I are pals. I met her in Tucson, where I used to live for a long time.
Oh, cool.
Anyhow,
So how long have you known each other?
Probably 6 or 7 years at least.
Oh, cool. Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a picture out your back door that you sent me, the black and white with the snow and the bird feeder?
It's out my window.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's
snow.
And birds are all active, and it's actually a color picture that came out as black and white because of just the way the sun is on this stuff right now. It just came out as black and white. I tried to get it in color, and it just went back to black and white. But so I'm sitting here, and this is the scene I'm looking on, and I'm loving it.
Beautiful. Yeah, it looks pretty.
Mm-hmm. So here's what's up, Michael. This is great because as preparation for this intensive, number one, I've cleared another few things off of my plate in order to focus my energy and attention as exclusively as I can on the work to be done for the intensive. Not only that, but it's the way things are playing out right now. And I qualify these things by saying it looks like, because I don't say, well, I definitively know what's happening and can determine what the destiny is here. But get this, I live in this awesome house Yeshua moved me into Central. And my two roommates, one has split for Costa Rica for an undetermined length of time, and the other one is moving out next week. So I'll have this entire house to myself for I don't know how long. And I'm looking at this, and because there are distractions and disruptions with a house with other people in it, and suddenly that's just taken off my plate. Great. That much better to do the work, because I'll be able to go wherever I want in the house and be completely undisturbed. And I got a view of the mountains out the window when it's not snowing.
Responding with deeper and deeper levels of support if you're doing your work.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, nice.
And then then, as I've been mentioning, there's a strong possibility that I'll be moving toward a better job, but also
nice
me in doing the intensive soon.
Cool.
So all these changes are happening on the outside, and then, as you and I have discussed for quite some time now, I was stuck in a rage, anger kind of mode. And then in the last week or so, fear has surfaced, plain clear as a bell. And then
been letting go of your drug of anger. Good.
Yep. Guilt has surfaced. I still haven't captured the thoughts that go with it because they're lightning fast. I'm going to catch them.
It's a skill. It's a skill to develop for sure.
Yeah. And then you and I have been talking about, well, I've been bringing this up. I wonder when hurt, sadness is going to show up. And guess what happened?
If it's there, probably when you're ready to handle it.
Guess what showed up yesterday?
No, I'll probably say it again tomorrow.
Oh, well, it's happening now, as a matter of fact. So let me own this, Michael. Starting yesterday, I had this perception of the treatment I was given by a friend of mine as being hurtful. It seemed like I was being, that there was insensitivity, that I'd kind of been trampled on, and this is my perception, and disregarded, and so lo and behold, I'm experiencing this hurt around this stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, well, where does this come from? And those words that I used, insensitivity, disregard, I know it doesn't matter what the third was, the trend is there. It's all my dad, again. And my power person. And so this is a new layer, or whatever it might be called, to bring forth to the intensive. And so even the stuff that I need to, so the outside is changing, seemingly all in my favor. And on the inside, this stuff is coming up, and I'm welcoming it rather than resisting or denying it. Because, as you would say, I'm guessing, my actuality is that, I have this perception that I could be hurt right now, and I'm not going to deny it. I'm going to use it for my own awakening. And that's what the intensive is for. So even though this appears to be happening to me, no, it's happening for me. So, and that's really all I wanted to say is that, okay, so, because the question came up and it just, by you, and it struck me as, oh yeah, pay attention to this because I've been through this before. You asked me if anything coming up for you, pre-intensive, and clearly the answer is yes. I mean, these different layers, and now hurt is added to the scene less than a week before the intensive starts. It's perfect. And so the stuff is coming up, and I'm welcoming it, and I've already started working on it.
Cool. Well, and it sounds like you're experiencing the fruit of your work. Right on track. Awesome. We'll look forward to watching how it unfolds as the intensive unfolds.
And so my question is this, because we haven't spoken much about this. Hurt. This is it's just another misperception.
Another thought disorder. Yeah, another thought disorder.
Okay.
Another energy that doesn't belong in the human system, whatever the environment is doing. It's another energy that you can throw out.
Approach the same way as the rest of them, right?
No. Here's the circumstance. Here's the object of attention of my hurt. And now I'm going to search out the goal that I'm using to generate perceptual constructs out of hurt. And now I'm going to cancel that goal. I'm going to invite Ruka in to support me processing this energy and process through it.
Okay. And
all right, sir. Well, we'll be here holding the space for you. Awesome.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Okay. All right. Take care. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye.
One of the things that I offer in my book, which I haven't read from yet, so we'll step into that, is the fact that to a complex mind, the truth is complicated. To a simplified mind, the truth is simple. And, the bottom line is it's all really pretty simple. It's just a matter of, am I going to do the work required to process through this, to move through whatever this particular piece of trauma energy is. And yesterday we ended up with a key thought. It says, just because you move doesn't mean that you're not in the same place.
Adjust your microphone, Michael. You just went
Oh.
muted.
Okay, sweetie. Thank you. Is that better? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Thank you for letting me know. So we've been talking to Richard about the difference between the cause of something and the fact that something is triggered in him. And so he says to me, I just don't get this cause and trigger stuff. Let's see if an example will help to make sense of that for you, Richard, I suggested. Imagine we place a person from the jungle beside a river and ask him to figure out what causes the drawbridge to open. He observes time after time that the bridge goes up when a boat arrives. He further notes that when the boat passes, the bridge lowers. Our observer, not being familiar with bridges, comes to the obvious conclusion that boats cause bridges to go up. We know that boats can cause bridges to move either up or down, though they are the trigger that begin the process. Being familiar with bridges, we know that the bridge tender sees a boat and puts the bridge's internal mechanism into motion with the flip of a switch. The switch delivers power to a motor, and that in turn causes the bridge to go up. What if we assign our observer the job of making sure the drawbridge remains down forever? If he clings to the false idea that boats cause bridges to go up, he certainly has his work cut out for him. To accomplish his goal, he may have to change the direction of every boat that approaches, potentially every boat in the world. If, on the other hand, he understands that there's an internal mechanism lifting the bridge, he only needs to go inside the control room and clip one wire, and the bridge will remain forever still. Ah, I see what you mean, Michael. And forgive my being blunt, but so what? Richard, this concept is a major key. Your reality arises from inside of you. My words are just a trigger for what shows up in your mind. The word responsibility does not include guilt, fault, and blame, though that earlier is what you heard. You must choose to take responsibility for your feelings and what goes on inside of you if you're ever going to change the pattern of your life and heal. And then there's a key thought here that says, if you keep thinking what you've always thought, you'll keep getting what you've always got. My intention was to assist Richard in seeing that we all have a system of beliefs and ideas which is at the root of our reality structure. Most people talk to themselves all the time, yet remain totally unaware that they're engaged in an inner dialogue which both reviews and reinforces their beliefs about life. Some people are continuously figuring out how to justify themselves in that review before an inner judge made up of their parents, spouses, religious authorities, and any number of other people. What would the judge say if they saw me doing this, they asked themselves. Our internally generated realities and the nature of our continuous silent dialogue operate consistently and automatically, informing the basis of our decisions in life, even the seemingly unimportant or trivial. I demonstrated the presence of Richard's internal dialogue by using the example of his reaction to the word responsibility. He was unaware that the ideas of guilt, fault, and blame came from his self-talk, his own silent speech. More importantly, it had never occurred to him that the reality in his mind did not necessarily match the reality shared by others in his life. Richard, our decisions in life arise from our internal reality and contribute to both creating events in our lives and generating our feelings about those events. To a great extent, people go through life oblivious to the impact of these inner beliefs and ideas on what happens. I invited Richard to look into the concept that our inner realities and self-talk are governing forces behind the life experiences we create. I suggested he examine his silent dialogue to determine its thrust. And so we put that thought out to everyone that's listening. Watch your internal dialogue. What does it say? Does it say things about yourself that are loving, gentle, and respectful? Does it say things that are loving, gentle, and respectful about others? If not, then notice the discomfort that results from that internal dialogue. And when you take responsibility for that and change it, everything begins to change. And we are here to make that change easy, comfortable, and delicious. Sometimes letting go of the identification with past conversations, realities, and beliefs can be a challenge. Well, we're here to support you, moving through the challenge and awakening to the truth of who you are, how you function, and what your role is in this creative process. I'm glad that you're here. And Miss Jeanie, we're down to about 16 minutes or so. Do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
It is all quiet on the home front.
Well, then let's ask for a hand to go up. Let's continue the conversation. Anybody out there with a thought for us? What's happening in your world? Is this making sense to you? You know, I've covered some pretty intense, deep concepts. And I just invite you to put your hand up and let's have a conversation about it. Is there some part of it that doesn't make sense? You know, this whole idea of your so-called body being nothing but a piece of plastic. If it's getting old and worn and broken down, there's a reason. It's because you bought that it's supposed to get old and worn and broken down. What if you refuse to buy that sales pitch? Well, but I've always believed that, and I can remember my mother and my father talking about it and telling us, well, that's just the way life is. You know, it's a sad thing about life that we just get decrepit and old and die. Well, would that be a conversation you'd be willing to entertain forgiving? Would that be a conversation you'd be willing to give up? And start to have a different dialogue with yourself. Oh, my form was made for eternal life. My form was designed to be balanced always and to be vital and strong and healthy, intelligent, creative, gentle, respectful. What if you change the whole dialogue of the generations? And if you do, you might be facing some pretty intense generational patterns that will savage you. Because when you start to shift out of those old patterns that have been in control for so long, the mind can go a little berserk. It can get pretty brutal. And so if there's brutality in there, the objective of this work is to open you to the brutality that's in there and to develop the capacity to step back from that brutality, to breathe, to be the thinker apart from the thought, the feeler apart from the feelings, the actor apart from the actions that come from the automatic decision system, to weaken the energy patterns from the past and inject something new into the process. Literally facing generational patterns that have perhaps gone on in your bloodline for, who knows? You know, if you go back to the scriptures and they talk about the idea that the quote-unquote sins, remember, sin is just an archery term, means off the mark. The energetic patterns are passed, yea, unto 3 and 4 generations. Now, did anybody ever tell you that inside of your structure was every thought, every feeling, every reality, every perceptual construct of the previous 4 generations, which means, including yourself, 31 lives? Did anybody ever tell you that? Did anybody ever tell you that forgiveness is about removing that dialogue, about removing those bizarre patterns of thought and speech and behavior. And then, did you ever add into that piece of information I just quoted, the second half of that quote from the scriptures? Because here's what it says. The sins of the fathers, again, the energetic patterns that never belong, will be passed, yea, unto 3 and 4 generations of those who hate me. Now, you listen to that and you'd say, so the Creator saying that, this is the Creator speaking to you directly, giving you instructions as to how the world works. So you're the Creator, you say, no, but I love the Creator. Yeah, but when the stress is up and the chips are down, what do you turn to? Do you turn to love, or do you turn to hostility or fear? If you turn to hostility or fear, then that in the Aramaic context would be hate of the Creator. The word hate there in Aramaic is not hate as in a love-hate relationship, but rather it's separated. So the Creator's saying, the energetic patterns of the generations will run from your automatic decision system, run through your automatic decision system, be run by your automatic decision system, as long as you're separated from the presence of my active love. That's all that was being said. Not a mysterious idea. Creator's saying, you live, move, and have your being in the presence of my love. If you're separated from it, it seems like you're out there on your own, and you can only play with what's in your own mind. The generational patterns are what are there to advise you. Befriend the presence of my love, and then you'll have the mind of love to guide you. Your birthright. Guess what they called the mind of love in those scriptures? It was called the Christ mind. Remember Paul talked about the mind of Christ in you? That's where your hope lies, is that mind is in you 24/7, 365, always ready, willing, and able to guide you and support you. You are never alone. And when you recognize that, you get to move through it. Beware the inclination to always think the problem's outside of you. That's the teaching, particularly of this culture. You'll notice how many of the great, quote, I put it in quotes, great ones, the people being held up in this culture, you'll notice how many of them are always whining and crying about everything in their lives is somebody else's fault. They did it to me. I am their victim. Well, I think we're in the age of healing victimhood. It's time for that one to go. It's time for us to be finished with that insanity. And to recognize there are no victims. There are only volunteers. And all you have to do is hold the mind energy of, oh, I always get taken advantage of. And guess what? Victimhood will be your lot in life. With that thought, you will literally create a measurable high energy wave that will pull everybody in town that knows exactly how to victimize you in exactly the way you've always been victimized. So there could be, 100,000 people in the city that you can interact with. Guess which 10 are going to show up in your life? They're going to be the 10 that are in resonance with, oh, here's somebody that needs to be victimized. I need a victim. Bingo. Guess who's going to show up? It's going to be the person who's perfectly in resonance with that message that you're sending out, literally through resonance. Remember, resonance creates motion toward. And so we're here to apply these tools first and foremost, and as we explain them, build the brain cells for understanding their application. And if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And if you have a question or thought for us, if you call that number, you'll be listening to the show on your phone. And then if you push 1, the hand will go up on the control panel, and Jeanie will know that you want to talk to us. And we'll be having a conversation. So we'd love to hear your voice. We'd love to hear from you. How can we support you? What's on your mind? 563-999-3581. So we've covered a lot of territory in a short 50 minutes or so, and I can only imagine that there've got to be dozens of questions.
Well, there are no hands up and no comment. Oh, I think Ann just pressed one again. Let me see. Ann, did you mean to press one again?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey there, young lady. Welcome.
Hi. I know there's only a few minutes left, so I'm just going to ask for holding a space. I listened to the first hour, and I was supposed to listen to the first hour because my reports from the doctor yesterday, he's a functional holistic doctor, and I went through these 3 programs that are computer generated that show things, and one talked about the liver, and he equated that to anger. Another part talked about loneliness, and another part, and all the rest of it was stress related. And the big wake-up call was that where I was functioning at 53 years old, I just lost 13 years in a year because I haven't been doing the work. And it's all an inside job. And so I'm just listening, the first hour was amazing. And you started your hour with just like right in my face and reminding me, and I already knew that I'm supposed to go through this again, listen to the intensive again, and apply it instead of just talking about it.
Stop auditing and act on it. Yeah. Well, and if you've made that shift in that time period, my offering would be that now all you need to do is do an inventory of everything that's been resonated in you in the last year. Resonated by your husband's death, resonated by the changes in relationship with your daughter. So you now know exactly where 13 years of aging lies. Every one of those disintegrative energies has been resonated in the last year. And all you need to do is forgive them, and you'll be turning back the clock. Probably much more than 13 years physiologically if you do that, because it's just been a year. The impact of that, if you don't do anything about it, probably will double and double and double very quickly.
Keep going.
And as you undo it, the reverse will happen very quickly.
Yes, because I envision, as you say that chart that you have, that the aging or the disintegrating or the integrating. Say that chart that you have, that the aging or the disintegrating or the integrating. So it just flashed before me, which is true. And I have that comment between the staff person who encouraged me, because I said, I guess now I got to go grieve this, which, immediately I was, the Spirit of God just went through this other person, and, she gave me more positive looking at it. Yeah, okay, grieve it, but then move on. And then my stepdaughter was encouraging with her feedback, and then my daughter. And so, and somewhere I got exactly what you just said. If it was a year to do it, then a year to reverse it. So thank you for more confirmation.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Everything that has been resonating in the last year was already in your structure doing its deterioration. It was already there. And as you said, your functional medicine evaluation said you were, prior to this, 53 years. You were 53 years carrying that load, but the load was at a hidden level. Now, the last year has resonated all of that, and that's the gift of it. Remember how many times I've said, the purpose of life is to kick you in the limitation. So now life has resonated all of that. It's in your face. You know exactly what you need to forgive. But here's the benefit side. not only will you crank off that 13 years that has shown up in your physiological evaluation, but you'll free yourself of that load, which probably means on the other side of it, your evaluation will probably show you being more like 40. So it's a gift.
Oh,
it's powerful.
Good news. Yeah. That's definitely good news. Yes. And it's all about putting pen to paper and
doing the work.
Yeah, but and so the denial is out. I mean, the denial is in my face now. Because the loneliness thing actually, I like what you just said about when you read your part of the book that said silent speech. So I can have the self-talk out loud, which I've done and I've worked through, but it's still there silently. And I had those loneliness thoughts. Alone and loneliness, I've found, are two different. And like you said, with all the things that went on, there was so much stuff, and I just kind of stuffed that. So it's like, okay, the outside things. Okay, yeah, the outside things.
Keep going. No, go for it. But we'll just run the clock down. Just go for it.
Okay, but the inside things I have not dealt with. So the outside perceptions I get, but not the inside. So it's an inside job, as we keep saying.
So I'd start doing an inventory. I'd start doing an inventory of every untoward thought that's come up in the last year. Just let yourself sit with it and go through that. Write them all down, and there's your list of worksheets. There's your work.
Yes, absolutely. All right, inventory.
And you'll come out the other